So I've been working for about 2 months now for Kylin, and my job was basically to assess at first what was done and come up with a strategy for what's next. So the contents of this, basically Kylin is promoting a decentralized data market, and basically I decided the direction we were going to take with this was to democratize data as much as possible. So previous work, I'm going to be looking over with the Polkadot system, where we are situated in the Polkadot ecosystem with the Substrate framework, just a basic explanation, and what we have built up to now with the existing Oracle functionality. Then I'm going to give suggest an architecture overview that I came up before I came here. Of course, that's going to change with all I've learned in the past few days. We're going to talk about reporters, the off-chain workers that are built into Substrate, and the APIs that we're calling, the aggregation buffer that we came up with, the democracy palette, that is a pretty strong product from the Substrate ecosystem, the data feed as a dynamic NFT, and the enhancements to the democracy palette that we want to give, and the concept of keepers from Chainlink. We have arbitrators that act in the same way. So working on Polkadot, it's a traditional chain, right, with the validators. We have this thing called relay change, so it links the shards to coordinate message passing. And if you look in the diagram, there's a relay chain that has validators that connect with collators. Okay, so this is where our Oracle is situated, is in the collator itself, and our parachain is hooked up to the relay chain. So the advantage of this is that when you're a parachain, you can have your own consensus and take your own decisions, but all the messages and transactions are signed by the main chain. So it's very advantageous. Now, working on Substrate, we have these modules called Pallet. It's a pretty weak system for smart contracts. There is a possibility to do it, but we use it to stage our things mostly. But there's 7 sections in this palette, and the last one is what we're going to be talking about, is the extrinsics. Extrinsics are basically dispatchable functions to invoke state changes, just like transactions, and you can call them through a WebSocket API from the outside. The off-chain workers are functions inside of this palette that get executed independently from the runtime, and they have direct access to the storage, so you don't need to serialize and deserialize. It's very powerful, and it's part of the node itself. So it gives the opportunity to offload some of the computation to that entity. The existing architecture for now. So we have these extrinsics that are called by a data requester. So the query data feed, submit data via an external API, write data on chain. So the consumer is going to call the Oracle, and the Oracle is going to, we have a pseudo, right now we're still, we're in a test, on a test network. We're going to join the staging test network, which is Kusama, in a few days. But we're calling pseudo, which is the root access. So this is, it's not going to be happening on the real net. So this Oracle is going to call external APIs and through the off-chain workers, and it's a pull request, right? So it's a pull Oracle, and we're going to store that data into other DBs or query other APIs and store that into the DB. Now, Usually there's criteria to be considered an oracle, right, that actually does something legitimate. So accuracy, validity, reliability, timeliness, relevance, completeness. Now the issues that we have, when I came and I saw what was there, yes, the founding blocks are there, but if the off-chain workers are putting data straight into the storage, how do we ensure that the data is valid? If there's only one API being called, how can we count on that API, not alone just saying the truth, but for its persistency? And who will choose the APIs and the off-chain workers? How can we prevent the collusion in that case? And we have a speed at which the blocks are being produced. Is it sufficient or not? So I'm going to start with the last one. We have a turnaround for our blocks about 6 seconds. So I figure we should be able to run our buffer within that time frame. So we'd be delivering within 6 to 12 seconds. Potential solutions that I'm going to be talking about now is, so we have a first in, first out circular buffer, and we're going to sample it with strict rules and algorithms. We haven't determined exactly what that's going to be, but I was thinking like of a dynamic system that could be triggered to choose different algorithms, like a hot swap or something. We're going to use the Substrate Democracy Pallet for creating data feed, registering APIs, and many other things. We're going to leverage Substrate's node reputation mechanism. So this node, it's a really amazing, it's everywhere. All the components in Substrate, or in Polkadot and Substrate, have this mechanism of reputation, and it takes nothing to get slashed. But there's on the other hand, it's not because you lose a bit of reputation that you can't still function. So it's very flexible and very strong. We're going to introduce push contribution using transaction cost as staking. So this is in the effort to democratize this whole thing, is that we're going to allow just basically anybody to be an oracle as long as they satisfy their criteria. And basically they're going to be allowed to send their value, and it's not going to happen that they're going to enter the buffer all the time, but when they do, they're going to get all their previous transactions that they tried to get into covered, plus a little bonus. So also we're going to use a multi-function arbitration or keeper to watch over the system. So this keeper is going to not act as much as, excuse me, the chain link concept of keeper, which triggers other functionality, which we're going to do also, but he's going to be in charge of a filter, before entering the buffer, that's going to just take out absurd or illegal data is important also. So this keeper will have the power to stop the feed if come the need to, or blacklist any reporter that is wrongdoing or just giving crap values. We're going to offer the NFT, we're going to register the data, or the data feed, as a dynamic NFT and let instances interact with its metadata. We're going to enhance the current democracy palette as a way to diminish lazy equilibrium. So I'll come back to that term in a second. And we're going to publish a schema of Oracle architecture. So that was kind of pertinent with the talk we had, the roundtable yesterday. So the aggregation strategy that we'd like to take. So as I said, we're going to have inbound pull-based reporters and inbound push-based reporters that will be paying a transaction fee, and they're going to be just randomly, accepted into the buffer with a set of algorithms. So mean, median, mode. I haven't really decided, or our team hasn't decided on this yet, but we're going to conduct some experiments. We're going to have for example, same consecutive value over 2/3 of the buffer size. That's a common thing in Substrate and Cosmos, the 2/3. We're going to have also, I discovered this algorithm, it's a machine learning algorithm called select storage. which is very interesting. If anybody wants to talk to me about that after, I'd be happy to give you the paper or something. And well, these dApps are going to query everything, the output. So this is going to be implemented probably twice, once on the Oracle and probably once on the OCW, the off-chain worker, and it's going to allow to use more power to run the algorithm that's going to find the source of truth. So this is going to need configs, right? So who's going to agree on the config for the queue size, or actually who's the reporter, who's on the whitelist, and there's a ban period also that the keeper can trigger. Just say that the OCW is 5% off, up or down, you know, of the median value that was found then, or 5% is an arbitrary value. It could be more than that, but there could be a ban period. No two OCW or pool-based reporter can submit twice in the same sample period. Just a bunch of rules that we're going to implement. And that should be, all these criteria should be specified in a config file. And even maybe sometime, at some point, we're thinking of having an AI module maybe helping us determine the queue size or the sample rate. So this is what the general architecture with the democracy palette is going to look like. So the dApp user, you know, wants to submit a feed, and he's going to create a proposal for creation. And when he does so, an NFT is created, and this is we're going to also ask of him that he publishes the metadata schema for the query parameters to fulfill the requests. And then we're going to have him whitelisted so he can start feeding data into the aggregator. Of course, you can see the filter here with the keeper arbitrator. And that arbitrator can pause the data feed at any time if he deems necessary, or blacklist a user. So the same goes with registering an API, registering a reporter, and even registering our keeper arbitrator. So lazy equilibrium is a form of verifier's dilemma, which voters always return the same answer to questions to secure profits report without performing works of correctness. So this is in the voting process that we saw in the previous slide. Right now we're using a pseudo mechanism. You know, it's not very evolved. It's going to take a lot of work to implement this democracy palette, but I suggested a mechanism to deal with the voters, so anybody can vote many times with different keys and all this. But I think the important thing to do, I came up with a concept called augmented voting. So we're going to focus on actually, just say you have two voters and they have divergent knowledge, but they also have common knowledge. So we're going to require that all the voters take a test before they can actually vote. And this would contribute to diminish the amount of divergent knowledge, educate the voters, reduce the amount of people voting against the common good, help determine if a vote is emotional or irrational, or solidify the validity of a vote. So this is a contribution to other voting methods. So it's just like, I'd like to compare it to clean energy. You know, you're going to ask for solar power and then wind power and hydraulic power and put it all together. It's the same thing. You could join this with quadratic voting or something and have just a stronger vote. So the augmented democracy concept is to have your user create a proposal, a question, or a data feed, submit it to the community, and the community creates an NFT. And this is where the market comes in, the DDMO, so Decentralized Data Market Offering. And you can have bids on this NFT, which can help fund the NFT for work that we're going to have to do in making the test. So there's a test that everybody has to pass if they want to vote. So the community members can also fund the NFT through its metadata. So the NFT becomes a semi-fungible token. So a semi-fungible token means that inside of the metadata, there's, for example, shares of that NFT that you can assign to different owners of the NFT. So the NFT will pay for gatherers and curators, which will go get information to build the test. So in that test, you could have, papers, research, media, reputation, facts, but mostly it has to be factual and non-subjective material. Then the gatherers and curators make a test, and the community members can take the test and enable their vote to have an outcome. So this is a bit more complicated of how we get that test to be valid. There's a concept called token curated registries, and a lot of people saw that everywhere at one point, and it's kind of cringy. But there's a company here in Berlin that's also a Substrate project called Kylin, and they came up with a concept called token curated attesters. And this ensures that the lists are curated properly, and that the tests are curated properly, and that there's an incentive that ensures this process. So I'm not going to get too much into details because it's very complicated, but these curators challenge the list. So new curators and try to come in and bring new information in, and that kind of diminishes the value of their token, but at the same time they want to keep their token mostly valuable, so they're going to try to curate the best list possible. I'll get back to this later in the questions period if you want. So actually the most important part here is that there's an objective answer to a particular question. The answer is publicly observable. The answer is very cheap to observe. These are the criteria for the token curated attester. So I'll skip this. So just final words on this. Consequences of this could be, DDMOs and Augmented Democracy could help in turn the surveillance capitalism into participation capitalism. NFTs offered by the D-data market are such that real financial value will be attributed and dynamically modified according to real-life results, rendering the appeal of data NFTs greater than speculative and empty NFTs. What I mean by this is that if there's a cargo ship with its trajectory being monitored via satellite, and that NFT would be substantially and in real life worth more than Bored Ape NFT. That's my opinion. So Oracle systems are often too complex, and we could offload some of this stuff to human oracles to simplify things. Will the ability of everyday individuals be able to participate in the truth, the narrative, be enough to motivate the participation? So our system, I hope, will help so that no one controls the narrative. So human oracles are already being used by Amazon MTurk is one successful example of this. And could we see a day where social benefits could actually be guaranteed by minimal involvement into a participation socialism? So just a word on Kylin. So it's kind of a more philosophical part of this talk. So Kylin is a magical beast native to China. They were like dear creatures with the ability to look in a person's heart and unveil if they were pure of heart. The Kylin also served as a vessel to carry the emperor from the heavens at birth and to the heavens upon his death. So I'm not a fan of anthropocentrism. I like to think that we're biological and natural systems as well as the systems we design. So if we act with a pure, selfless, and dedicated heart, the processes of decentralization will occur naturally and organically where needed, and the oracle we build will be a vessel for truth. So this is where I can be reached. Thank you for any feedback, and